In this video, we're finishing off the discussion on business models with an overview of business model types. Now, the curriculum begins with what they call conventional business models, and instead of even discussing them, sort of in text, what they do is they have a page wide table occupying the whole of a page, where they simply discuss some conventional or very typical models. Those are natural resources producer, a manufacturer, a distributor, so like a wholesaler, a retailer, then a securities broker, and a bank. And I don't think we need to go through those. I mean, most of you know what a natural resources producer looks like and what a bank does and who the clients are, and how they earn money, or what a manufacturer does. So just make sure to glance at that table in your book. There's nothing surprising there, I don't think, and I don't think it's even the thing that you're going to get tested on, but be aware of the fact that it's there. I think you're more likely to be tested on some of the more modern business model variations, so we'll focus on these business model variations. Now, these are quite simple, to be honest, and I'm sure a lot of you have encountered these in real life. So the first one is the private label / contract manufacturer, or contract manufacturers. So, I think the best example of this, the most prominent these days, is how semiconductor chips or semiconductors are produced. They're produced at huge facilities located, for example, in Taiwan. But those facilities are run by companies that they're called fabs, that they only fabricate, they only produce the chips. The chips themselves are designed by people like NVIDIA, Apple, and so on. They're responsible for the design of the chips, but the manufacturing is outsourced to companies who specialize in this. This also happens to some extent in alcohol production. For example, beer production is often outsourced to a contract brewery, somebody who produces beers in batches for sort of beer designers who come up with a recipe. Right, the next one is value added resellers. So this is where you've got a company, a reseller, whose job is to distribute the products or services, but also offer additional services, hence value added. So handle things like typically installation or customization of the product to the needs of the client, offer service, offer support. And you're most likely to encounter this with IT hardware. So when you're buying IT equipment, you'll typically do it through a reseller, but also more sophisticated machinery, like in the construction business, or another one is software. Software for companies, enterprise software, typically gets sold via resellers who come and install the thing, customize it, etc. Now, another one is licensing agreements or arrangements, and this is something you'll typically find with things like toys or apparel, clothing. So you've got a company that produces producing typically some goods, but with somebody else's logo or brand on those goods, with someone else's logo, brand. So think about, and obviously, for doing this and selling these products, must pay royalties to the owner of that logo. Think about shirts with clothing items with various sports clubs or sports teams, or sporting legends on them, or perhaps toys or various film franchises, that kind of thing. Toys that are supposed to look like characters from a film. That's all done under licensing arrangements, typically produced by a toy producer, but under license from the film studio owner of the intellectual property. And then finally we've got franchise models, and everybody knows typically how franchise model works. You have a franchisor and a franchisee. The franchisee is the one who operates the sales, so operates under a specific brand. So, for example, the McDonald's brand with proprietary products. You can't sell McDonald's other than via a McDonald's outlet. Proprietary products, at least not to the best of my knowledge, but also processes that have been designed by and licensed or franchised by McDonald's, and they pay royalties to the franchisor. In this case, it would be McDonald's, and the franchisor is responsible, obviously, for product development, coming up with new stuff, and typically advertising, marketing the products, that kind of thing, to the public. Now, right, your book then, having discussed conventional, shown you some conventional models versus variations on those models, or sort of more modern ones, talks about innovation in business models. And once again, this is more of a sort of examples-based discussion, nothing too concrete. So the examples given will be software, which used to in the past be sold by making the buyer pay an upfront license fee, and these days it's more a monthly recurring fee, because software has now shifted to a software as a service model. SaaS, software as a service. Of course, we've got the example of airlines switching to low cost or even ultra low cost. We've got also in the book the example of securities brokers who have some of them adopted a discount broker model, where they are now offering their services at a relatively low cost to retail clients with very low commissions, something that in the past would have only been available to sort of high net worth clients. There's also discount retailers. Think about the likes of, depending on where you are in the world, you may have people like Lidl, Aldi, Costco, if you're on a different continent, those kinds of brands. Some general trends which your book notes in this innovation game, not always applicable to everybody, are: location matters increasingly less. So location matters less than it used to, geographic location, because it's more important typically now for companies to have a digital presence. And because of that digital presence being possible instead of physical location, that has made outsourcing a lot easier. So outsourcing has definitely become easier. If I wanted to, I could outsource my part of the creative process to somebody on a different continent, and we could obviously share files online via something like Dropbox or Google Drive. No worries. Now, digital marketing has also changed the game because it is now a lot easier and more cost effective to actually get your message in front of specific customer groups, so effective to reach specific customer groups. And the fact that you found this channel means you were effectively targeted by Google based on your search history or what you looked for on YouTube, right? That connected you with the Let Me Explain channel. Brilliant. Now, another important concept is network effects. These network effects have become, this should be network effects, have become more powerful recently, and we'll talk about them in a moment, have become more powerful, but also accessible also to smaller firms, not just the big players. And what do we mean by the network effect or network effects? It means that the value of a network to its users, it actually grows as more users join, as more users join up. And of course, some very important examples of this would be, social media networks, but also payment networks. And not only those, your curriculum wants you to know network types, obviously in the context of these sort of businesses based on networks. They may be one-sided networks. This is where we only have one type of user who is actually valuable to other users, and e.g. telephone services, we can only perform one role in a telephone, sort of classic telephone landline connection, or indeed a cellular connection. We can all call each other, but we all receive calls or make them. But there are also two-sided networks or multi-sided networks. And this is where you have more than one type of user who can connect up. And, rather than provide definitions, think about an online marketplace like eBay or Alibaba or whatever, where you have both buyers who are present and obviously sellers who try to sell their stuff on that network. That's what makes it valuable, those two types being there. Credit card networks are another one, or card networks as such, not necessarily credit card, but a debit card as well. You need both the card holders who want to make payments using their card, but also the merchants, the sellers who accept card payments. It's no good having cards if nobody's accepting them. Airbnb, house sharing, whatever, house letting, you need both the guests and the hosts. You need, what about food delivery? You need the consumers, the buyers, but also the restaurants who will join up a food delivery network. And my last example of this would be ride-hailing networks like Uber, where you need both the those who want to be driven as well as the drivers who are willing to spend time during the driving and obviously use their assets like cars to do so. Now, the last concept here related to networks is crowdsourcing. Now, this is not intended to be a way to finance a network. It's where users contribute directly to the product or service, And, examples of this are things like Reddit, where some people ask questions, others, respond, making the service what it is. Wikipedia is another one. TikTok is another one, seeing as, you have the consumers of the content and the content providers, and dare I say, even though it's not mentioned by your book, YouTube is another network where the content appears because users contribute it and others consume it, others watch.